Hello community, so great to see you. Yes, we focus on strategic reasoning through reinforcement learning, and we have a look at the strategic game of chess today. Out of these 200 papers that were published today, there are 4 papers that are really outstanding today. I want to show you them. Let's start with the first paper here from July 2nd today, 2025. And this is a paper by Mehta in the University of Washington. And they say, hey, it is yet unclear how we can boost now the reasoning capabilities of our non-reasoning language model, including Llama 3. We are not talking about Llama 4, they're only focused on Llama 3. And Mehta has now a new idea, and you find this here in the paper. They call it Astro. And this new method called Astro teaches now those non-reasoning models here the trick to do the reasoning. And the way to do this is to internalize here a structured search behavior through a synthetic dataset that is derived here from a classical Monte Carlo tree search algorithm over a mathematical problem-solving trajectories. Now, if you've seen my last 2 videos, you know exactly what we do with trajectories here in mathematical reasoning. But at first, notice that Mehta is here only talking about mathematical problem solving, not about general reasoning, and this will become important tomorrow. And they say, yeah, we want to boost here the reasoning of our non-reasoning Llama 3 models, and this is clear, no? But I told you there are 3 papers, so have a look at this. This is here a paper where we have the first author here by Carnegie Mellon University, and they have a simple question, no? The mathematical leaderboard improves week by week. We get better and better performances. And now it is worth asking the question, hey, do those performance gains in the leaderboard really reflect here a general, a broader problem-solving ability of our language models? Or is this just a narrow overfitting for one domain, and this is, for example, mathematical reasoning? The answer is absolutely fascinating. And then the third paper here is supervised by UC Berkeley, and they say, hey, can large language model develop strategic reasoning? And this is such a beautiful paper because they go here with the strategic game of chess. Simple, 2-dimensional surfaces, so great. Let's have a look. So what are the post-training insights from learning chess here? Do we do this with supervised fine-tuning? Do we do it in a combination with reinforcement learning? Do we need verifiable reward structures? And they say, let's explore this. And this is such a beautiful study. And I will tell you the result already. They say, we found that those language models have limitations. And those limitations stem here from a deficit in the pre-trained models, in the base models, internal understanding of the strategic game of chess, and a deficit which reinforcement learning alone may not be able to fully overcome. Think about what this means if you want to optimize your base model for finance or medicine. And they said, okay, so let's develop here a better strategic reasoning capabilities for the game of chess with reinforcement learning, with verifiable reward structures. And you know, they really went heavy on this because normally you just have a sparse binary reward function, no? You know, the classical correct or incorrect or +1 or -1. But they said, no, let's do this the right way. And let's have here a pre-trained chess expert AI model as a reward model, you know? A form of knowledge distillation from the Q-value network to the LLM, which evaluates the position strengths and provides continuous rewards function, not just sparse binary rewards. So they really go heavy. They have just a complete AI expert system just to provide a reward. So absolutely impressive. And here you see here the flowchart. So you have your training data, all the different moves you can make, great. And they have 2 models. They have a QN model and a Llama 3.1. And they say, great, so we do the classical. We have here, this is the base model. Then we do here supervised fine-tuning. This is optional. For the supervised fine-tuning, we go to OpenAI O3, this big monster of an AI. And O3 gives us now reasoning traces. And those reasoning traces are now here our reasoning expert systems and we fine-tune on them, and we fine-tune the base model on those reasoning traces from O3. So we have a better starting point for our reinforcement learning procedure. And for RL, we use GRPO, the classical one. Great. They created here a very particular reasoning supervised fine-tuning corpus of 1,000 high-quality reasoning traces by OpenAI O3. So really, I think you cannot get better reasoning traces than O3 because they are really excellent. Maybe Gemini 2.5 Pro also has equal quality of reasoning traces, no? And they say we do this here for the evaluation, for the tactical assessment, and for strategic justifications. And then they say, okay, let's have a look now at the performance with the training steps. And we have with a reasoning supervised fine-tuning, the performance of a Q1 2.57b, and without the reasoning supervised fine-tuning. So, great. After performing supervised fine-tuning with the corpus, we apply our GRPO pipeline. Great. And here you have now the performance data. In blue, you have with the reasoning supervised fine-tuning, you see you start much higher, but you kind of plateau out. Without reasoning supervised fine-tuning, you start low, but with the time, with the training step, you reach almost the identical plateau level. With Llama 3.18b, it is in general the same behavior, just you have a little bit more fluctuation here without reasoning supervised fine-tuning, but you see you have here plateau level at about 30%, and here 2 coming close to 30%, 25 to 30%. It plateaus out. This is it. Now, this is an interesting behavior, and might say, well, of course, it's only an 8B model, no? This particular behavior is absolutely fascinating, and in one of my next videos, I will show you a deeper mathematical understanding why this is happening. But for the moment, we have to acknowledge this and say, yeah, this is it. So what is the insight that they found? They tell us, we did here the reinforcement learning, and this performs stronger than if we would only do supervised fine-tuning. This is a known fact, yes, of course. And they say, yet its performance here, even with RL, plateaus at about 25 to 30% accuracy. And that is well below a human expert performance of 60 to 80%. And they argue now, so if we put this additional reasoning traces of O3 in, so this reasoning distillation, we have here this teacher model, O3, and then we have a little 7B or 8B model, the student model. So this reasoning distillation here, where we have a supervised fine-tuning for the base LLMs, does not improve the reinforcement learning with verifiable reward structure, the performance of those models. And this indicates something. And they argue this indicates that the models in general, they fail to develop a meaningful strategic reasoning despite this post-training of supervised fine-tuning and reinforcement learning with reward functions. This is fascinating, but this is in line with the latest research results we see. If it's not in the pre-training dataset, you cannot activate it with supervised fine-tuning, and you cannot activate it with reinforcement learning. Neither in finance, nor in medicine, nor in mathematics, nor in theoretical physics. Interesting, this study. And they say, well, we have this idea that in contrast to logical reasoning in the mathematical domain, the limited emergency of the strategic reasoning in chess, which I would reason is also somehow connected to mathematics, but okay, they tell us here, in contrast to mathematics here, the strategic reasoning in chess may stem from insufficient exposure to chess-specific knowledge, data, during the LLM pre-training. So your base model, if it was not trained on chess specifically, you can do all the post-training you want. You will not get a good system. Identical for financial, chemical, physical, mathematical systems. So they tell us, hey, our empirical findings also support here the recent claims that reinforcement learning mainly amplifies existing capabilities of pre-trained LLMs. And it is so hard for the AI community and for each and every researcher I talk to say, no, come on, with reinforcement learning, we can bring in new domain knowledge, or we can bring in new complexity, we can bring in new reasoning, we can do so much better. And now it is so hard to understand that study and study and study again, they show us, no, if it's not on the pre-trained LLM, no way. So the main insight here from this study is the pre-trained domain knowledge is essential to develop advanced reasoning. Now, you remember an old publication. We have not been together through this, but this is from February 25, and this is here from UC Berkeley and Anyscale. And they say, and this is absolutely fascinating, they say LLMs can easily learn to reason from demonstration structures, not content. And you might say, what do you mean with this? Now, the authors tell us, hey, we find that an LLM can effectively learn long chain of thought reasoning through supervised fine-tuning and LoRa adapters, beautiful. And they built just 70,000 long chain of thought training samples with a QN 2.5 32B, so a bigger one. And this improved here the performance of the model in mathematics 40%. Now, 40%, this is a jump in the benchmark data that said, yeah, this is impressive. And they tell us here, we find in addition that the structure of the long chain of thought is critical to the learning process, whereas the content of the chain of thought is of minimal impact. So the content of each individual reasoning steps in this sequence is not as important as the structure. And they said whenever we did some structural modification that disrupted the logical consistency in this long chain of thought, such as shuffling or deleting reasoning steps, this significantly degraded the accuracy of the system. But on the other hand, when we trained a model on long chain of thought samples with absolute incorrect answer, we still achieved a performance that was just 3% below the other models. And this is amazing if you think about it, because it does not depend on the content. It just depends here on the linear sequential structure of the chain of thought. Now, I don't know about you, but this tells me that it is more about the structural patterns that the AI model learns here, and it is not about the domain-specific content that is learned for reasoning. And this here is an indication that the AI is still a pattern machine. So there's no content-based reasoning learning happening. Otherwise, we would see different results. Absolutely fascinating. Connected these papers, and yeah. But you know, we have two more papers we have to look in detail. And we have this paper introduced here at the very beginning of this video, July 2nd here, Astro. Let's have a look at Astro. This is here by Meta, and they tell us, hey, we love those reasoning models, you know, but how can we boost here the reasoning capabilities of non-reasoning models, like our Llama 3? So let's see what they found. Now, they claim now that this new Astro methodology teaches here a Llama 3.1 70B model to perform self-reflection and backtracking in context. And these two elements, self-reflection and backtracking in context, will improve its mathematical reasoning performance. At first, notice that they're only talking about mathematical reasoning and not about reasoning in general, in finance, in medicine. We are absolutely domain-specific for mathematics, and this has a reason I will explain in one of my next two videos. Okay. So I expected now that they come up with the reasoning traces like we've seen before in the last study of 03, and I thought here, Meta now, Llama comes up with the Llama 4 behemoth now, with the biggest Llama 4 they have, and you know what, to my surprise? No, it's a Llama 3.1, at least a 70B. And they use now a search algorithm, and they use our good old friend Monte Carlo tree search. So this is really a classic AI search algorithm, famous already for mastering games like Go. And they say, yes, but now we integrate something very special into this. So if you're not familiar here with Monte Carlo tree search, here on the left side, very easy visualization. You have a reasoning problem and you start here with a node, and a node in this tree structure here is simply, I don't know, a partial solution or a single reasoning step. Let's say calculate the area in the first box. And then we have edges, 1, 2, multiple edges. And those edges generate now the next possible reasoning steps. So LLM acts here as the policy network itself, suggesting several possible next steps, whatever is the capacity and the complexity level of the LLM that acts here as the policy network. And then we develop different paths, as you can see here in the tree. And now the Monte Carlo tree search explores many different paths, and a path is, nothing else here in our example as a particular sequence of reasoning steps. And to know which paths are now the right one, which are promising, it runs rollout to the end and uses here a simple verifier. We are in mathematics, so we just say, is the numerical solution correct? And you may take here a table calculator, you just press it manually, say, yeah, this is the correct numerical result. And then we send back here either a high reward signal, a +1, or if it was incorrect, a -1. So the system learns which was the correct path. As you see here, if you go to 1 and then we go here to 3, you see here the Q value, the quality here is minus, and this quality is 0. But if you look at this particular path, 0, 2, 7, 9, here 9 is the correct numerical result. We have a Q value of +1, and this is the correct path, whatever you like to call it. If you want to learn more about this, I have more than a dozen videos on Monte Carlo tree search. Here are 2 specific. Here I show you Monte Carlo tree search to enhance the performance of your AI agent, because there is a new method by Stanford and UC Berkeley called Sailor. And if you want to go here inference time, so test time, training adaptation, here is a novel policy reward structure with Monte Carlo tree search in this video. But let's go on here in the paper from Meta. Now they say the new innovation now in their Astro model is now procedure cloning. What is it? It is simple. You see, this is a tree structure. So a tree structure, you have now to find a linear sequential model for this. So either you go with the correct solution, 0, 2, 7, 9, but there says Meta now is not here this reflection and this backtracking here happening. So Meta goes now also and includes all incorrect paths. So we go 0, 1, 3, 0, 1, 3. Then Meta reflects and says, the wrong way, so we have to restart. So we go back to 0, restart 2, 6, 8, reflect, no, not the way. So we only can go back to 2, so let's backtrack to 2. Let's start here the alternative path from 2, and there we see there's the solution. So what it does, a beautiful word, a technical term, producer cloning, it just converts a tree structure into a single chain of thought. That's all there's happening. You see, no magic at all. If you want to see this here, as an example, here we have the Monte Carlo tree search with a problem. And then we have step 1, step 2, step 3. And then you see at step 4, let's say at node 68, we see, oh wait, our quality values are now 0. So this means this is really the wrong one. So let's backtrack here to 2. Let's have a new step 3. Let's go another path down, and then, yeah, this is the right answer, Q equal 1. So we use here the policy to search through the complete solution space via this classical Monte Carlo tree search. And then we linearize here the search tree in a way that now, this was known before, but everybody wanted with only the correct path. Nah? And the new innovation, if you want, by Meta is now, we linearize the search tree that incorporates the backtracking from the incorrect terminal node, like here, 68, but we integrate now 68, and the greatest common ancestor node with the correct terminal node. So it wants to learn from its mistake. And in general, this is a good idea, I think. Huh? And then we have here a lot of training data with the linearized solution. This is now a sequence we can put into supervised fine-tuning and reinforcement learning, and we get the result. So if you want to see this here in one flow, this is the text for you. But I want to show you an example because I think it's even easier with an example. What is self-reflection? It's linguistic. We understand it immediately. No? At the end of a wrong path, we just inject here a hard-coded phrase like we tell them all to say, hey, but wait, are we correctly solving this problem so far? Let's think about it. I'm not sure if our solution is correct so far. This is all that there is in self-reflection. It just copies here a particular autoregressive pattern. The same with backtracking. Here we inject here a phrase, according to Meta, that describes moving back to a current earlier step. And then we say, okay, let's go back to where we calculated the volume of the second box. We were sure that this is right. And then let's go from there another branch down the tree. Think about it. This particular method teaches the model the autoregressive pattern of self-reflection and backtracking. What do you think? Does it teach the model the general reasoning abilities? Or is it just a pattern repetition machine? What I like in this study is that Meta was really transparent how they generated the data and the amount and the costs. They say, we Meta built here more than 20,000 search trees and identify 14,000 search trees with at least one high-quality correct solution that can be linearized. And after this, we have now a total of over 100,000 chain-of-thought solutions for mathematical reasoning tasks. And then for the supervised fine-tuning data set, we say, okay, we sample this further because we want now at least 3 search solutions which reach the correct answer with minimum 1 self-reflection and 1 backtracking instance. Because they say this is the new thing, self-reflection and backtracking in a linear chain of thought sequence. And this is the data set that will teach here knowledge distillation here to the student LLM, to the non-reasoning LLM. And they said after they had done this, they ended up with more than 36,000 solutions for the data set. So 36,000 training data samples is quite impressive for the post-training. No? And they say, yeah, we had a look at this and beautiful. And now they say, the way we do it, there's always this discussion, only reinforcement learning directly on the base model, or should you go here at first with a supervised fine-tuning step, like we have seen in the other paper with O3, where we go in and we say, yeah, we take all the reasoning traces from O3 for supervised fine-tuning, and then we have a better model for reinforcement learning. Now, they come up now, contrary to the other studies, and say, yes, this is the way to go for us. Meta says, yeah, we do the supervised fine-tuning on the base model, and then we have a good basis for the reinforcement learning. Okay, their decision. Now they give us here the resources, and I love this. So for the 70B Llama 3.1, they used 8 GPT node, and each node consists of 8 NVIDIA H100 GPUs, and runtime was about 40 minutes. Now for reinforcement learning, it was a different business. Now they used 32 GPU nodes, again, each node with 8 NVIDIA H100 GPUs. They divided it for the training and inference run, beautiful. And each training run was about 10 days. No problem if you are Meta. Now what are the main results? I show you here the second table from the marketing material, from the research publication, because I think this is really interesting. So we have here in the first 2 lines here, supervised fine-tuning, and then we have reinforcement learning. It's always the same model, a Llama 3.1 70B. But look at the differences. Just want to show you. If we do not go with this new meta idea of backtracking and self-reflection, and they call it direct. If we go with direct supervised fine-tuning, let's say we just look at AIM24, we get a performance that is better than the Astro supervised fine-tuning. And for the majority of 8, we got a result with the direct supervised fine-tuning that is significantly better than the Astro supervised fine-tuning. Now you know why this is only the second most important table here by Meta, as published by Meta. And you see, okay, so supervised fine-tuning not really bringing in a lot here, quite contrary actually. But then let's have a look at the final reinforcement learning, yeah? If you look at AIM24, you see here, okay, Astro reinforcement learning is a bit better. But look at this. The difference is 1.7 percentage points. And I'm sure if this is here the official publication by Meta, they have chosen here the best conditions and the best parameter and hyperparameter that Astro really shines. Of course, it is their new baby, so they present it in the best possible way. But think about it. Even if they do this, all of this, imagine how many chain of thought linearization we had to perform from the tree structures. All this event, all this calculation, and what we achieve in the best of all worlds, this is here from Meta, we achieve here an improvement of 1.7 percentage points. Okay. Now, if you look closer, and this is now in the annex, this is not in the main paper in front of, no, this is here, and we have here the same. We have here the steps, and here the development of the system, and in dark blue, we have here the new Astro 70B reinforcement learning, the dark blue, and in the light blue, you have the direct one, so without this new innovation by Meta, back reflection and self-reflection. Now look at this. There are areas where both models overlap in their performance indicators. Look, they are overlapping. They are so close in their performance, you hardly can distinguish them. Here, look, even here, all over the place, you have areas where they separate 1 percentage point, 1.5 percentage points, but then you have areas where they are equal. And this is already here from Meta Marketing averaged over 3 evaluation benchmarks. So those 3 evaluation benchmarks were chosen by Meta for the best result. So I'm really saying this is the best of all worlds that you can have for Astro. And I would say, I don't know if I would invest in this model. But anyway, whenever you read now the official wording by Meta, they tell us, hey, these new results of Astro here strongly indicate here that learning to self-reflect and backtrack more frequently helps the model to solve here the challenging mathematical problems. I would put at least a small question mark behind this statement. Now the really interesting part is now this study. Because this study now says, hey, wait a minute, like we just have seen with Meta, no? You're only talking about mathematical reasoning. This is a rather limited form of linguistic reasoning because mathematics is clear, no? What about general problem-solving abilities? Do they exist if we optimize the model for mathematical reasoning? Is then each and every causal logic reasoning model solved? Or is the mathematical reasoning just a domain-specific reasoning pattern that is not transferable to financial reasoning, to medical reasoning, to whatever reasoning you have? And I think this is here the beautiful topic here of this paper. I will show you this paper in my next video. And I have another paper. I know this will be published tomorrow. So I just wait for one day. And I think this second paper, then tomorrow we will look at both papers in parallel. And I think I will have a little surprise. You will see how close reinforcement learning and supervised fine-tuning are if you look here at all these mathematical optimization spaces in a very particular way. But more about this tomorrow. If you subscribe, I see you then.